Some stories should never be told. But there are some that eat away at you, keep you awake at night. And this is one of those stories. My name is Elif. I am 24 years old. A quiet, reserved woman raised in a conservative family. When I started university, I realized that life was more than just books, but I always maintained my boundaries. Until I met him. He was one of the most charismatic and respected professors at the university. Associate Professor Dr. Levent. His wisdom, authority, even his voice captivated me. He was married, and his wife was also an academic at the same university. But still, I couldn't resist him. At first, it was just admiration. Listening to his lectures, I realized how deeply his words resonated with me. He always paid close attention to me. Sometimes, when our eyes met, his gaze lingered just a second too long. But surely, that was just my imagination, right? Then, one day, I went to his office to consult about my thesis. A room filled with books, dim lighting, just the two of us. He paused mid-conversation, his eyes fixed on me. Elif, you're very intelligent. It's a pleasure to listen to you, he said. His voice was softer than usual. A strange excitement rose within me, but I quickly composed myself. I thanked him and changed the subject. But the magic of that moment never left my mind. After that day, something changed between us. He was different. Small, barely noticeable gestures, yet they were there. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Maybe I was overreacting. But my instincts told me the truth. He was looking at me differently. One day, we ran into each other at the library. The place was silent. He walked up to me and said, "I'd love to buy you a coffee. Academic conversations are getting a bit dull." He smiled slightly as he said it. My heart nearly leapt out of my chest. I said yes. We sat in a cafe, talking for hours. Time slipped away unnoticed. He was incredibly captivating. That day, we crossed the line of mere academia. His gaze was no longer just that of a professor. One evening, I was one of the last students left on campus, making final edits to my thesis. A knock at the door. Levent. Elif, you're still here. I'm not sure being this hardworking is a good thing, he said, smiling. After a brief conversation, he leaned over my screen to examine my work. He was so close I could feel his breath. A deep silence settled between us. When I turned my head, our eyes met. And in that moment, without a word, his hand brushed against mine. I pulled away at first, but in that instant, all my barriers crumbled. That night, guilt and excitement mixed inside me in a way I had never felt before. Our meetings became more frequent. Secret encounters, stolen moments, forbidden emotions. I knew he was married, but I had lost all reason. Levent couldn't hold back anymore either. "We shouldn't do this," he would say, but the next day, he would text me again. Had he turned me into someone who betrayed another woman, or had I lost myself willingly? I had always been a woman of principles. And yet, here I was. No secret stays hidden forever. One day, in the university hallways, a shadow appeared. His wife. She looked at us. The suspicion in her eyes said everything. A week later, Levent texted me, "Everything is about to come out. We can't see each other anymore." Cold. Distant. My heart shattered. He had only been trying to save himself. And I had lost everything. I graduated and left that city. One question lingered in my mind, was this just passion, or had I truly lost myself? Some forbidden desires don't just destroy the soul, they erase a person's entire identity. And now, I am no longer the person I used to be.